do I talk to Rick?
All right. And off we go in 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, welcome to Let's Get It Podcast. This is Al Gordon. I got a special guest with me today. This young man here is the person that got me started in this. So I owe him a lot, and I finally was able to pull him away from his podcast. So he's going to introduce himself, and then we'll start talking about the industry.
Well, thank you, Al. Thank you for having me. My name is Eddie. Full name, Eddie Aguirre. I'm the host of Social Primates Podcast and the, on the side, graphic designer. Yeah, but thank you again, Al. Thank you for having me. It was we talked about it. I know you mentioned like a few years ago we had this conversation about starting something similar to like a podcast, and it's cool to see that you're doing it, man.
Right. Before we dive into it, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. We're here at Salt Studio. Just so you know, Salt, they have a new property. It's called Salt Lick. I'll put the information at the bottom. They had a soft opening last week. We're probably going to get a tour of that location probably within a month or so. And also Bliss Teen Treats. We're also going to be doing their opening and their interview in about a month and a half. But anyway, let's get down to it. I just want to say thank you, number one, because when I had the restaurant, Eddie worked next door, and I would always talk to him about it. And I did a lot of this. And one day Eddie's like, "Why don't you just come and be on my podcast?" And I'm like, "Nah." He's like, "Nah, serious." And lo and behold, he had me on a podcast, and we had a great time. I mean, it was
awesome.
nice.
Yeah, I think it's one of the more provocative episodes. That came about, and people had some, they had stuff to say. They made comments, and it was cool. There was a lot of interaction, kind of like just different versions of how people saw things, and it was cool that people were just trying to have that conversation. So it all happened because of that. We just decided to talk about something that kind of not necessarily triggered people, but just kind of opened up a wider scope of situations or arguments.
I'm going to mention what it is. I didn't know I was going to talk about this when I met with Eddie. He wants to talk about red pill, blue pill, all that good stuff. So what we'll do, we'll probably put a link in the bottom, or we'll probably put the hashtag or whatever so they can go watch it on your channel.
Watch it, okay.
But I'm not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about some business.
Yes.
What I want to talk about as a creative and as a content provider, the first question I put in my notepad is don't quit your day job. That's all I'm going to say. I just want you to say whatever you want to say about that.
In terms of what I believe in.
Yeah, I'm just going to don't quit your day job. Yeah. You go ahead and fill in the blanks.
No, I agree. I think at least to the point where, for example, my podcast. It's been it's been getting a lot better. There's a lot more listeners. There's a lot more opportunities kind of opening up, and it's definitely it's been helping me like pay little things like gas or like cover the podcast expenses on its own. But at the same time, I feel it's important that you have to have a day job, or at least like a part-time job where you have income kind of flowing in at a steady rate, and then kind of learning how to invest what you're making to make your stuff happen,
Right.
But day job's important for sure. But I think outside of it, you mentioned earlier that a lot of people get, they just don't have the, I guess, time management to kind of.
I'm working a regular job. Costco, FedEx, whatever, your day job. You're off at 5 or 6, and you want to get in. You want to start a podcast. Let's say I want to start a podcast. I have my regular day job. I have my family, stuff to take care of. What would you tell them? Whether to do it, not to do it. Different times of the year.
I don't think the years are necessarily a big thing at all. I think it's mostly just trying to take the action of actually feeling like you're doing something. At least for the most part, something that kind of made me start doing things was I was just trying to look for growth. I was trying to grow for myself, and I felt like the closest way to do that was just to sit down with somebody and have a conversation with them.
Right.
And that kind of made me start realizing a lot of different things about myself. So, that was my little, how do I say it? My foot into the world of podcasting. But it took a while because, you get out of work, you're tired, you don't want to do anything besides just sit down, chill, and do something, right?
Right.
The last thing you want to do is kind of put more effort into another thing. So, I mean, I think at least at some point you feel like you're not doing enough, you know, and I felt like I wasn't doing enough with my time. And I decided, you know, I needed to find something that kind of I enjoyed and invest some time into it.
So are you investing in the topics, you know, the subject matter? Yeah. I mean, what?
A little bit of everything. You know,
Okay.
I do it for the conversation itself. I like doing it for myself too, because it kind of keeps me on my toes in terms of, you know, what's going around me, what's happened before, and it gives me a sense of trying to better understand the situation for myself. And
Okay.
that helped me kind of grow and open up my mind. And I feel like a lot of us don't have the opportunities to be put in a situation where we have that expansion happening.
Well, what do you talk about someone that's afraid to do it? Because these days, people, people are upset over anything.
Mm-hmm.
So you're jumping out of the ledge saying, I want to grow as a person.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn more. I want to see different sides of the coin, let's say. But I'm putting myself out there. My 9-to-5 job, they might see it.
Yeah.
Spouse, girlfriend, partner. Am I going to be judged by family members? So there's still something there that's stopping them from putting themselves out there. I mean, podcasts, you don't have to be seen. You could be behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, yeah. Some of your questions were just mostly like, how will you make that jump type of thing?
Yeah. Because you're going to be judged.
Yeah.
So is there a transition? Do you meditate before you do it? Do you go and...
I do try to at least for myself, I try to keep, when I'm about to do a podcast or when I started it, I feel like I needed to be honest with people, you know. You got to be honest to yourself and honest to other people. Otherwise, people are going to call you out on your BS.
Right.
And so for the most part, you know, that something just, without getting too much into it, there was a moment in my life a few years ago that kind of like made me change the way I needed to do things in life.
Okay.
And that kind of, you know, snowballed into what made me focus on my career and the podcasting. Because again, I wanted to bring opportunities to people who didn't have them in my place. For example, like work-wise, when I started, I was doing graphic design, but a lot of people wouldn't hire you because you don't have, like, you know, a diploma or something.
Right.
But for the most part, I already knew what was going on technical, you know, and creative-wise. So the skill and the ability to showcase what I could do was there, but it was the lack of, certification.
Right, the
that
paperwork.
Kind of held me back.
Right.
So, you know, that started to the podcast. I created the brand, and that itself kind of put more experience under my belt for people to see. So, you know, the podcast kind of helped that part of my career.
So you were able to maneuver.
Well. Yeah.
Pivot and maneuver. Okay. Do you think someone needs to be in a partnership when they do a podcast, or you should just go solo?
Sorry. Sorry, I don't know if you're cursing this. I curse a lot in the podcast sometimes.
It's all good.
Okay, but I had the opportunity to do a podcast before with a couple of my friends, which was maybe like 2013, 2014. And for the most part, it was great because, you know, you have other people, you have ideas, you can bounce around, and everybody has like their own interests. Mm-hmm. So it made it more interesting in the sense that, you know, everything was more random. So it was more fun. But that didn't work out. Everybody had like their own thing going on, and, you know, everybody went their separate ways. But to me, the podcast had become more than just a hobby. You know, it was more of a thing that people seemed like they wanted to hear, you know, and I had a lot of feedback in terms of it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I can jump in and do the podcast solo.
Yeah.
And that was scary. You know?
Yeah.
Again,
it's all on you.
Yeah,
it's all you now. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, but the mindset was, okay, the first podcast failed, but it failed because there was other personalities that I needed to manage, or kind of not manage, but work with in order to make the podcast grow. And then this podcast was, okay, if it fails, it's all on me.
Right.
You know, so that gave me more responsibility in a way and an obligation to kind of like stick by it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it was hard. It was that part where you're just making the jump into recording on your own. It was weird.
Yeah, you're talking to yourself. You're crazy. What's wrong with you?
And then just sitting down with somebody somebody you don't know, and
you're
just having an hour conversation for me, it was awkward sometimes, and it was like nerve-wracking. But
was it nerve-wracking and awkward because you didn't know what they're gonna say, or you didn't know what to ask them?
I didn't know what to ask them.
Okay.
Because I think when I first started, it was more like specific topics sometimes, like politics or history or whatever. But then it came to a point where I said, okay, maybe I need to let the conversation flow a little bit more.
Right.
So then that kind of just made me feel more at ease with people. And now I'm like, cool,
Yeah.
I can just sit down and talk with you. But I mean, I've talked to you before too,
Right.
So
Right,
it's
right.
that comfort.
Yeah.
But podcasting in its own it's always, every podcast, at least for me, it's like, it feels like a brand new episode.
Oh, I love that feeling.
Yeah.
Love it. So do you recommend someone rent a space to do a podcast or build/create a space to do a podcast?
I mean, personally, my mentality has always been just work with what you got type of thing.
Right.
There was times where I record a podcast in the car. I just roll the windows up, turn the AC on or something, and sit down with the guest next to me, and we just have the phone and just talk.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they started, and from there it was just in the room. I'll borrow my living room, do something and just make the content.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, it's the quality of the content that you're producing.
Right. Right.
So you can we can be in a basement right now, but if the content is good, people are going to stick around.
Mm-hmm.
So that's mostly my thing. So, but I would recommend having your own setup, something that you can travel with. But if you find a spot, kind of like where I found with the guys in Bell, it's cool. It works out. Again, it's a lot of personalities you have to kind of deal with.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's still a space that provides the stuff that you need to just sit down and get it done instead of having to do all the technical setup stuff.
So if you're in LA County, is there a smaller city that you're in? Like we were in Bell when we did the other one. Okay, so let's say the city of Bell Chamber of Commerce said, okay, we know that you do the podcast here. What services can you offer the city of Bell that we can utilize your skill set? What would you tell them?
In terms of the podcasting, or
maybe they want to start their own podcast. Yeah. Maybe they want to be on your show. How would they, as far as services they provide, would they say, okay, maybe not for us, but people that join the chamber that own businesses, can you offer them any services? Can you help them do X, Y, Z, or whatever that may be? I
mean, for the most part, I've been experimenting. It hasn't been to that personal level yet.
Right.
It's been more like affiliations that they're online or something. But the stuff that I've planned out before has been to approach certain people who are in charge of creating certain events for communities or stuff like that, and then having them come on either to talk about that event or things surrounding what that event means, I guess.
Okay.
And then that way they get their event out type of thing. So they're in their interview, and we talk about whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's at the end of that hour, it's still related to whatever it is that they're in a sense trying to promote. But without making it sound like, hey, like buy the tickets type of thing,
Of course. You want a personality behind the person that's putting on the event.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
And I mean, outside of that too, would just be mostly like reaching out to certain businesses and saying, hey, like, wow, we can share something online or something. Kind of, like just like a little ads type of thing. And I don't know, provide a loaf of bread or something. I don't know. Something.
He needs more than bread. I'm mostly in the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
I deal with a lot of, every now and then, maybe a corporate client, but usually more mom and pops, less than 50 employees, 50 to 75 employees. A lot of people are still kind of stuck in the 80s, 90s, using old software to ring people up. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to talk about social media. If a restaurant or a mom and pop wanted to come to you and utilize your service, how can you help them? I mean, if you can or can't. I mean, who knows? But
I mean, for the most part, again, if it's like a mom and pop shop, it's mostly about trying to get a lot of it's word of mouth type of thing. Like that's like the more efficient one, or the more organic one. Mm-hmm. I think that's the most one that people should focus on. So I think organically, in that sense, again, it's like trying to reach out to those businesses and say like, hey, I can give you a platform where you can have more like what's the one I'm trying to reach, like a larger outreach. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Okay.
To
reach your demographics.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And different ones too, instead of just like the usual ones. Right. But I mean, that's honestly the only, as far as I've thought into that plan, something I haven't implemented, but
yeah. And the reason I said that is because you're real easy to talk to. You talk about a lot of social issues, and I realized that even as people own businesses, they want to be involved in the community, but they're busy running their business. Yeah. So they can sit with you once a week and say, hey, I'm talking to Eddie, blah, blah, blah. Now they have a voice. The only time they have a voice is when they vote, or they talk to their kids or their family. That's technically. but to actually engage them.
Yeah.
Now they see like, oh wow, other people hear me. Their friends call. Oh my God, I heard you. Blah blah blah. So I'm just kind of curious as far as utilizing your skill set to a business owner to kind of get them out there a little bit more, because it's kind of intimidating to go to a consultant and be like, I need help. Whereas if you're having a conversation, you can talk about it, talk through it, and get help at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, but I had some guy. He owns a coffee shop in South Kids called Crucitas. Name dropping here, but Crucitas. It's called, what is the place called?
Is it a Mexican food restaurant or?
Yeah, it's just like a Mexican cafe spot.
Okay.
El Cielito. It's like the sky. It's a cool little place, but at the same thing, we've had the chance to have a conversation. We're still working on finding like common ground in terms of like, I want to have them on the show, and then they've offered me coffee before, like, hey, come on through, we'll hook you up.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's already that little sense of community there. It just needs to be kind of tinkered with. But like you said, it's about just bringing them on and having the personality in the back. You're showing that personality for that business.
Right.
Because
I see there's a visual resume.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, this is your visual resume.
You see the personality, the person behind it, and that it just connects you. It makes you more human. Instead of Instagram, it's cool. It's visually appealing, but you don't know who's behind it.
Yeah, yeah. When there's times when you just don't feel it.
When is there times?
Like when you just don't. I'm not in the mood. Turn off the audio.
Yeah.
Get rid of the lights. I don't want to see another camera. I'm just not in the mood. What do you do, or what's your go-to to be like, you know what, maybe I need to take a break. But what do you do to get re-engaged?
Okay. For example, this last month I haven't recorded.
Okay.
One of the main reasons was, again, just to kind of step back, reset, collect my brain power again and kind of just sort things out, because a lot of stuff's happening right now.
Right.
And it's like, everybody's like trying to figure out what to do type of thing. So I feel like in order to have a podcast, you at least have to have a better understanding of what's going on, at least not just one-sided, like a biased version of it, but try to see both sides to it. And then come in and say like, oh, okay, like maybe have a better opinion on it.
Okay.
Compared to, there's people talking about certain things and it's like just misinformation.
Right.
So it's like, okay, let's wait to, more facts and then kind of build on it. So I sat out of that for like a month, kind of just process stuff. And
so when you process, everyone's different. Some people go to a retreat, they're going to Big Bear, they're getting out of Dodge, staycation, working out, spa. There's so many things to take your mind away from things. Outlets. Do you have any outlets, or you just stay just?
No, I have a few. For example, I'll do. I'll go camp. I'll go hiking. I like going to. There's a thing called an isolation tank in Venice. It's pretty cool.
Isolation tank.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. Just like maybe once every 2 months or something.
But what do you do to isolate? You can't skip over that.
Yeah.
You can't say isolation tank and not say what it is. Like,
okay,
Google
pretty much. For people, you can't really see in here. People can see this fridge here in the back, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty much like a fridge, like maybe 15 by 15 feet, right?
Okay.
So you go in there, it's pitch black, and you go in there completely naked.
Okay.
And you lay down in like a body of water with like a bunch of what's it called? Epsom salt.
Epsom salt.
Epsom salt.
Okay.
So you lay down and you just kind of like close the fridge door.
Yeah.
And you lay down in complete darkness.
Okay.
So you're just there floating.
Is the water cold? Is it hot? Is it room temp?
Room temperature.
Okay.
Yeah. So at some point you acclimate to it, and the idea is that you lose sense of your body.
Okay.
So it's kind of going like on a psychedelic trip without the drugs.
Okay.
So your mind kind of just starts hallucinating on its own because you're in pitch darkness. There's no silence.
There's no sense of reference of any.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the only times you move is you kind of like shift a little bit. You eventually touch the tip of the fridge.
Okay.
But yeah, you're in there for 2 hours, and you kind of just like let your mind do its thing. So it's trippy. It's trippy, but it's a cool experience. I highly recommend people do it.
An isolation tank.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Reset. That's like a perfect reset. Yeah. But, it's interesting. The thing is, it's without the drugs. So people who are like, oh, I don't want to mess with that. It's just it's just your regular brain, sober brain, just making mind tricks. Yeah, just tinkering with chemicals and trying to find a sense of reality in that darkness. It's cool. It's like meditation, but at 1,000%.
Okay, and they do. I guess it's a 2-hour process. Can you go shorter or 2 hours?
You can go shorter. No, you can go in there for 20, 30 minutes, an hour.
But not just getting your skin wet. You really need to take some time.
If you want to really take those peels off, stay there for 2 hours.
Cool, man. All right, you might want to jump in that Navy SEAL game. On a podcast, how important on a scale of 1 to 10, listening, meaning 1, you're distracted, the guest never talks, and a 10, where you extract as much information from that person. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is listening, having a podcast?
I would say 10. Nah, between 8 and 10.
Okay.
I would say. Because, I mean, for the most part, it's really hard getting people to talk sometimes. So you kind of have to, So, I mean, normally conversations are just flowing, right? We're just bouncing off each other, flowing, energy, whatever. But sometimes they just come in, they're like...
Let's touch that.
Shut down.
Someone's an introvert.
Yeah.
They feeling you, the street, you're chopping it up, it's all good. Yeah. And then they sit down and it's like, go. And they're like...
they're all quiet.
So what do you do in that situation?
So at least the last few years that I've been doing this, I kind of learned how to, get into it. So... First of all, it's making jokes, just being funny. People find it funny, they're gonna already lower their guard down a little bit. And then I could get awkward as well, very awkward. So I can get quiet or say something, mumble or something. So I just bring it up and bring it to their attention, hey, this might get awkward. Or whenever I do get awkward, I'll just bring it up. And it's kind of self-deprecating, but it's funny.
Yeah.
So then they kind of
break the ice a little bit.
Yeah, so then that kind of just eases them up, and then they slowly kind of start showing themselves a little bit. And then they forget the camera's there, the webcam.
Right.
So then it's just regular conversation. So, I mean, those tricks have worked, No,
if you're in the same location with all the, so many things in that room.
Yeah, there's a lot.
It's overwhelming at times. But it does break the ice.
Yeah.
Because it's not just you in an empty room, just now what you want to say. So a lot of people have one-word answers.
Yeah, they do. That's what you kind of have to keep asking them. Okay, so my little trick is for people who are trying to figure out how to extract information in the podcast would be just to take whatever they're saying to you, and then just pick a few words out of it and kind of rephrase it and ask it back type of thing.
Got it. Or ask them to explain something.
Yeah, exactly, and then that pretty much just helps them explain it again. But in a bigger, using more words. So you kind of keep using that, and at some point they break. At some point their guard goes down.
But you can't invite them back.
Maybe.
Don't invite them.
I can't say that right now.
Don't come to the show.
Yeah, because it's hard to maintain the conversation, especially when you don't know what they really like to talk about. Normally, if I'm there with a friend or something, we go free for all. We talk about whatever.
Yeah.
But usually, I can't do that with for somebody that I don't know what their point of view is, because then we're just arguing or something. Well,
arguing is good. At least they're expressing themselves.
Yeah. Well, I had this case. I don't know if they're gonna watch this, but they got pretty feisty. Feisty to the point that they just walked out. They're like, I don't want to do this. And I was like, oh shit. All right. But I'm telling you, that's the thing. So.
Oh wow.
I learned from that. That's why I was like, okay, maybe if I have certain guests on the show, I'll kind of figure out what they want to talk about. But I still wouldn't change what I'm going to ultimately
It's your show.
Say. Yeah, exactly.
If you're a punk, you don't walk out, bye. Deuces. I mean, come on, stop. Okay, so speed round time. So this is speed round. I say one word, and whatever comes to your mind. If you want to speak on it, one word answer. Whatever comes to mind. Yeah. You can say whatever you want.
It's a one-word answer?
No, I'm going to give you one word.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And whatever comes to mind, you go at it.
All right, cool.
Okay. Technology.
I don't know if you guys seen the new Stuntronics from Disney. They're making this new park at Disneyland, a Marvel campus for the superheroes. They're going to have this Spider-Man swinging through the park, but it's a stunt robot. So it's flowing, it's doing arm movements.
Oh my gosh.
But it's dressed up as Spider-Man, and it's just swinging around. So I saw the demo version of it, they did, I think 2 years ago. And it's so freaky looking. It's just a robot. It looks like some Terminator stuff.
Yeah.
Just flowing through the air, doing acrobats like Circus du Soleil. It's dude, too much. It's getting scary.
So too much.
Okay. I mean, it's cool, but it just looks too natural. It's too fluid now. It just needs to put like human skin on it or something.
Man, don't start talking that, man.
Yeah.
I'm
you said technology.
Okay. Struggles.
Let's really open that. Struggles, personal struggle. Oh, anything, huh? Oh,
man, that's on you, man. That's.
Man, you made me go deep in here. You know?
It's on you. I got my
struggles are just trying to get my stuff together, education wise. So I'm definitely going back to school. That's been a struggle.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess that's in my mind because that's what I talked about.
Cool.
Right
Okay. Money.
I'm getting aligned to investing. I'm starting to learn more about like stocks, like all this stuff. So I mean, I think it's a change. I never cared for it. So.
Oh no, nothing wrong with that. Leadership.
I think a lot of people don't know how to be a leader. You know, they have like this fake sense of leadership, but I don't know. It's easy for people to kind of mud it up and stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think now especially we need more sense of people kind of stepping up, not just presidential wise, but I'm saying more like in different shapes and forms. And I think until we really figure that out, we're gonna be stuck, in the circle.
Do you consider yourself a leader?
No, I don't know. I feel like if I was a leader, I'll probably fall into the temptation of that power.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd rather stay away from it. I'm more of an outsider, just kind of like trying to look in. At least that's what I consider myself as.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I feel like I'll be easily corrupted. So stay away from the power.
Hey, if that's the way you feel, keep it 100. Social Primates.
So far, it's honestly one of the best things I've done so far. Just like creatively and like, I guess professionally. It's become more than a hobby for sure. And, it's kept me on my toes. It's definitely challenged my point of view on a lot of things, like my biases.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that without it might have taken me a little longer. But, just meeting all these people, like interacting with all these personalities, just like the human nature of everybody is what interests me. So, it keeps me in.
Oh, so it's growth. Yeah. Okay. And depression.
I think that a lot of people need emotional health is not like a big thing, like people talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important because I wouldn't say I've had depression, but I've had sad moments, maybe moments that were maybe not the best kind or the best thoughts, during that time. But I know for the most part, with the right guidance, with the right kind of can't find a word for it, but yeah, I'm not even going to try to figure out what that word is right now. But with the right, I guess, the path or what gets presented to you or how you kind of decipher certain things will help you kind of like overcome it. Because I know it's probably people are like calling me out right now, but how do I say it, man? I'm trying to come out with like a good sentence.
So what do you mean calling you out? Like you did
just
something.
Like, you say, when you say something and they kind of take it differently. They're just twisting the words. But what I'm trying to say is there's like people can work at their depression,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it just takes that will. And people are like, oh, there's some severe, and I understand that, but I do think that we can all come out of it. And again, this is where that isolation tank comes in. Like, I have to be stern on that. Right. It's just that in itself can change your outlook on a lot of things, And the thing is, a lot of people are scared of going into their mind, into their head.
That's true.
A lot of them. And it's not in... Okay, so I guess this all connects. You're scared of going into your mind because you don't know what you're going to see.
Mm-hmm. And
there's been moments, I'm not going to lie, I myself have done some psychedelics. Disclaimer here, you guys. Don't tell the owner where I work.
Right.
But, I had moments where I was so scared. But it wasn't scared over, like, stupid things like werewolves or clowns. It was just stuff about myself.
Right.
Stuff that I didn't like about myself. So just having that put in front of me and seeing the weaknesses that I had made me come back and realize, like, hey, like, you got to change these things if you don't like them. And you're the only one that's in control of
that can do it. Yep.
So, that kind of opened up doors for me in that sense. And which is why I continue to kind of do the isolation tank whenever I can, because that's just a safer, less dramatic way of getting into that mindset.
Okay.
And so I think, if people are exposed to that kind of stuff, then they start realizing what they're afraid of, and then they start noticing how there's a bigger experience than what they're limited to. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know if that made sense. I just feel like
no. You tied it back in.
Psychedelic rant, but
you brought that tank back in the game. Yeah. Okay.
You guys should do it. But
damn.
Yeah. So having that fear, made me kind of like start questioning I'm sorry I'm going all over the place, but there's this thing like, if you feel fear, there's a chance that fear you're being held back for a reason. That's like your ego trying to hold you back and stay in your comfort zone. Mm-hmm, but it's usually when you break through that you see like this dramatic change in your life and your perspective and things. So
you hit the nail on the head with that. Fear will hold people back daily.
Yeah.
Daily.
And it's funny because after, I think like 2 years ago, I went skydiving. I was going through some stuff and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go skydiving. So I went and I was scared. You're standing on the edge of the airplane and they're like, you ready? And you have no choice but to kind of like, just do it. Just jump into it. So I keep that as a reminder. Like, if I jumped out of an airplane, I can talk to somebody right here. Yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
It was just that mindset, just to try to, if I feel that like fear, find out what that is and try to like see how far I can go, and eventually you're going to break through. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, it's easy to say, but I know it's definitely hard to do.
Well, I feel after talking to you, I think sometimes people need someone to reach out to. Mm-hmm. And I know you have a podcast and you discuss numerous topics, social issues, what have you. But sometimes people need someone to talk to, or just to listen sometimes. Just hear me out. I'm alive. I'm worth something. But anyway, we can go down this rabbit hole all day long. I just want to say thank you guys so much. I want to thank Eddie. I said Eddie's the man that put me on. And I thank you so much. And I definitely want to have you back because I think that as a young man and what you're doing, I think it's really important that people are not afraid to talk about it. They're not ashamed of it. And, I'm just going to say, if it's your show, your rules. Yeah. If you don't like it, start your own show. But that's the thing. True. You tell people that, and they don't have this to do it.
Yeah, right.
So, that's just
what
it is.
I know when you mentioned it, I'm glad you stuck with it. And you're like, you're doing it, and that's what matters. You're being consistent. You're putting out the work. Yeah. And then maybe you don't start out with like the greatest viewers, but eventually at some point you get those amount of viewers, and then you have all this cool content already just waiting for them to consume. Yeah,
definitely. Wow. Well, I just want to thank Eddie for rolling through. There's a lot more stuff I need to talk to him about. So we'll schedule something else with him. So this is Al with the Let's Get It podcast. I just want to say thank you for Salt Studios. Thanks, Eddie, for rolling through. Thank Bliss Teen Treats for our sponsorship. And until then, you guys take care. Oh, man. See? Nice, bro. That's how we do it up in these streets.
All right, good.
Dude, that was awesome.
That was nice.